back with Stevie Wonder and James Woods. Anyway, I understand that song you just did is the first time you've performed it?
First time we ever did it on television.
Hey, I thank you for that. Thank you.
It's actually going to be in my album coming up, which is going to be called Conversation Piece. And the song was called Fear Can't Put Dreams to Sleep. Because, you know, I know I had the music, but I didn't really have a really good idea of a lyric. And a thought came to me, which was the beginning lyric of the song, which is, from out of the blue there came to me a question, the kind that till you answer won't let you be. The question was, if I were blessed with the gift of sight, what most in life would I want to see? That made me think of an old story about a boy who had no control of his feet or hands, who was asked if he could walk and touch again, what would he do? And he said, as I understand, if mine eyes were to see, let them be the witness of a world that is color-free. If my limbs were to move, let me walk and touch this land when hate can no longer be. And if my ears were to hear, let it like the sweetest music be unity and harmony. And should my mouth start to speak, let me talk about a land where love's for all and fear can't put dreams to sleep.
That's lovely. No wonder you write such good things. Yeah. Are you pressured by time? Those of us who can see are constantly looking at clocks, you know, and so forth. Does the time take on a different dimension of you sometimes, so you're not aware? Or is that a dumb question?
No, actually, people always call it wonder o'clock.
Yeah.
because what happens a lot of times is, particularly with my albums, you know, I will take my time to get it to a place that I feel that it's right in that space. As far as day and night and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you know when the sun comes out that you've been up all night. You know, you know, I mean, obviously, I think what happens with me is, and I was thinking about this because my son, my oldest son, he'll be 15 on the 16th of April, and you know, I remember back when he was like, "Hi, Daddy, how you doing?" And I was like, "Hey, what's happening, man?" And you know, when I hear a voice like that, I say, well, how does that person, so it will take a while for me to really get into the age of the person. I think that once the voice matures, you get to a certain point, you know it from like 14 to maybe 35, 40,
That's
then you know, so you really...
So you can pick out the age of a person fairly much.
To some degree, but obviously, I probably don't get so much into how someone looks or how they are.
Right.
It's really me judging that by the energy that they might have.
Yeah.
If they have a youthful
How old
energy,
do I sound?
Oh, Johnny, you must be hitting around 24 years
That's
old.
my boy. Well, sorry, you missed it 10 years. What?
Well, that's where the sight comes in, Johnny. I'm sorry.
Do your kids, you mentioned your son, you have a daughter, right?
Uh-huh.
Didn't she have to have a birthday? Do they influence what you write in your music? Do they critique it?
Well, they definitely...
You pick up from them?
Definitely. My son is getting into mixing now, and he's a serious rapper fan, so he listens to a lot of that stuff. And I listen with him to a lot of it, too. They listen and they tell me what they think, if it sounds good to them. If it's not happening, you know, that ain't happening. You need some more rhythm in there. You need to put this in there. And I have to listen to them. Yeah. Definitely.
You get a good fix on what the
But I think I can still, you know, I can still rock it.
Oh, yeah. Hey. Did you ever write a love song and some gal thinks it's for her and it's not? It's for somebody else?
There was a song I wrote called Oh My Marcia. I wrote for this girl. And I did write it for her. But we got into a little situation where, you know, we didn't see each other in a while, and she met somebody else, and I told her, I have this song for you on my march, and I sang it for her. Then, when I found that she had somebody new, I had Sylvia Moore to change the words to Ma Chérie Amour.
So you took the song back, huh? Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So your tour starts, the worldwide tour that you're going on, the Wonder Tour, starts, May 19th?
19th of May, we're going to do a tour in Europe. It's starting with the symphony orchestra, various orchestras. It's going to be called Natural Wonder.
Yeah.
And where we're going to do a lot of the songs that I've done throughout the years and some new stuff. and breaking it up into different spots in the show where I will do acoustically things by myself,
Yeah.
then some with the group, and then some with the singers in the group, then some with the symphony orchestra in the group. And hopefully at some point in time during that tour, Take Six will also join with me.
Oh, great.
Big fan of Take Six.
Mark. Can you do anything else before you have to leave tonight?
Have you been working with your harmonica, by the way?
You gave me a harmonica last time, but I don't seem to handle it too well.
Really?
Yeah.
It's just draw, blow, draw.
Yeah.
That's how you got it. This one. But I want to do a song, actually. I did some research, and I heard this was a song that was a favorite song of yours. This is my first shot doing this as well, but if you all don't like it, you better still clap. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. So check it out. Doc has kind of helped me with it through. I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places. This heart of mine embraces all the way through. In that small cafe, the park around across the way, the children's carousel. That's the trees, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every love summer's day, and everything that's light and gay. I'll always think of you that way, and I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I will be seeing you. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is through, I'll be looking at the sun, looking at the moon, but I will be seeing you.
Stevie, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a moment. Thank you, Stevie. Okay, Ted Koppel is here tonight. I'm sure most of you know that Ted Koppel has been with ABC for 29 years, and for the past 12 years, he's been the superb host of Nightline, a program which in most markets is opposite The Tonight Show. Would you welcome Mr. Ted Koppel? Well, we finally got you here.
It's true. I did. I bought the moose, but it was in England, and I never inhaled it. And incidentally, Johnny, before anything else is said, I know how embarrassed you are about people talking about how much they're going to miss you. As someone who has been getting his brains beat out by you for 12 years, I'm not going to miss you in the least.
Ted and I have only met a couple of times. We don't exactly have cookouts at each other's house. You're in Washington and I'm out here, but we did have occasion in Washington to be with the Brinkleys and Sam Donaldson one night and George Will. It was a marvelous evening. And we have made jokes occasionally. I called you once because you kicked our brains out several times. One night in particular, at the height of the Jim Baker, Tammy Faye Baker carryings on, you had You had them both on.
Actually, you know, I'm glad you reminded me. I think we got to start doing that.
Get out of here. I mean, and I said, we're going to get killed tonight. And you buried us in the ratings. And I called you the next day. And I said, if this is the kind of program you're going to resort to, Ted, I said, I'm getting Charlie Manson out of prison tomorrow and bringing him on the show, right? I said, enough already. You joked about the hair. People have made jokes about that before, right?
No.
Come on.
No. Yeah. They were, you know, it's incredible. To this day, I get about, anywhere from 70 to 100 letters a day. Any given day, I get half a dozen letters about the hair.
You're kidding.
You know, they just want to know, is it real?
Of course it is. I did not know that years ago, you were a page during Jack Parr's days in New York City.
That's
true?
As a matter of fact, Ed,
Yeah?
do you know who your predecessor was? Quick. Think
Sure.
about it. Who was Jack Parr's
Downs.
counterpart? Hugh Downs. Exactly. Did you know that?
Sure.
Sure you did.
What is this, a quiz, Ted? I mean,
You're probably the only guy who didn't know that, right? Hugh
I'm
Downs?
trying to remember how. I know the name. I gotta
Hugh
remember
Downs?
I gotta remember the face.
Come on. Yeah.
see what happens when you get a blind straight man? I mean, you're gonna get killed with that kind of dialogue.
With a major talent. Yeah. No,
I get questions from time to time, people saying, are you doing what you really want to do? Is this what you started out envisioning? Someday I'll have a show like Nightline?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I didn't think I was going to have a show like Nightline. I wanted to be a foreign correspondent.
Right.
From the time I was, I guess 8, 10 years old. Really.
Yeah.
But when I was a page, well, obviously before you were doing it, and I was, and arguably, you've got some pages here.
Sure.
Right? I was the worst page.
Didn't care for it.
In the history of NBC. No, I loved it. I had a great time. You remember Queen for a Day?
Absolutely. Jack Bailey?
Jack Bailey.
I certainly do.
They brought Queen for a Day, Jack Bailey brought Queen for a Day to the old Colonial Theater in New York one time for a 2-week run. And they said to those of us who were pages beforehand, they said, you know, we get about 350 women, and they have some instinct that tells them if they're put up in the balcony, they're not going to get on the show. So they all want to get into the orchestra. You've got to keep these women in line.
Right.
So we had them standing outside the theater. And I had them all huddled up against the wall. And one of the heads of the guest relations department came by, and I could see him sort of talking to some of the women, and they were all sort of turning around and pointing at me. What I did, there was a crack in the sidewalk. And I told them that NBC, at some considerable expense, had electrified the crack in the sidewalk, and that if they stepped across the crack, you know, there's mild electric shock. So they were all huddled against the wall.
Now, not to take advantage of this, but most journalists, not to take advantage, but since this is the only shot we're going to have at this, if I remember at that dinner in Washington, we were talking about various things, and you started talking about Nixon's trip to China. That was about, what, 19...
Excuse me, guest 3?
Your guest 3.
Guest
you have,
3, right.
This is a classy show. We don't...
I always wanted a custom cup of my own. Guest 3 is...
And you may take that with you, Ted, if you'd like. I think they're about $1.40 now, but what the hell. Anyway, you were talking about the Nixon trip to China, and you got up and did a little impression of...
There is something you need to know about President... You've met him, haven't you?
Yes. He was a guest on this show.
He's a
one time.
very, very smart guy.
Yes, he is.
But he is not terrific at small talk. Any time that Mr. Nixon has to engage in small talk, it ends up being a little bit embarrassing. This was in 1972, when he made his famous trip to China. And he went out to the Great Wall, and Tom Jarrell, who was then our White House correspondent, was on the Great Wall with him, and had an opportunity to just shove a microphone in his face, and he said, Mr. President, what do you think of the Great Wall? Now, there are any number of things he could have said about the Great Wall, right? I mean, you know, this extraordinary wall which, you know, bifurcates China, which has kept out all the enemies of China, is symbolic of anything, right? Instead, he says, well, one can only say, upon looking at this wall, that this is truly a great wall. It's true. We've still got the tape back at ABC, and you know, whenever we get depressed, we
Yeah,
go
sure.
down in the basement and sort of look at it
Great
again.
wall.
Great wall. So, you got to go to a commercial?
No.
Because there's a follow-up. On
Yeah.
the flight back from Beijing to Shanghai, I was thinking about, you know, what he could have said. And so I wrote a little song that he could have sung. Doc, we haven't rehearsed this, right, Doc? No. If just a little snare drum or something, you know, it's, you know, terrific. That's great. Ready?
Yes.
The song goes something like that. In fact, it goes exactly like that. It's a grand old wall, it's a long-standing wall, wins the prize for its size and its age. It gave just rewards to the Mongol hordes, drove the kulaks away in a rage. From Beijing to the seas, it has saved the Chinese till the days of the Kuomintang. From Ming to Han and on, the Great Wall, you can't go wrong.
I never thought I'd get that out of you.
Well, I want you to notice that Stevie Wonder is sweating bullets right now.
Yes. His
Basically,
career,
you're gonna be clapping on 1 and 3. That's how it's gonna be.
his career is over. You do
I
a
won't
little.
play harmonica on your record. I
All
won't do
right,
it.
okay.
You've talked with Dr. Kissinger a number of times.
Yes.
Do you ever get the feeling you want to fall into his
happens.
meter
I'll-
of speech sometimes?
Tell you a quick
Yeah.
Kissinger story. It can be a long Kissinger story, but you tell me how much time we got. Whenever Dr. Kissinger went to Saudi Arabia in the old days when he was doing the Middle East shuttle,
Right.
he would be greeted by the Saudi foreign minister, a fellow by the name of Dr. Sakaf. And Dr. Sakaf would greet him at the plane, and they would walk to the VIP lounge, and they would sip little cups of coffee while the press took pictures. Let me borrow your hand for a minute. And Dr. Sakaf would interlink his pinky with Dr. Kissinger's pinky, and they would sit there sipping coffee with their pinkies interlinked like that, right? And it was obviously intended as a sign of respect and affection. Anyway, we are flying into Saudi Arabia one time, coming in from Cairo. And Dr. Kissinger came back to talk to Dick Valeriani, who was then of NBC News, and me. And it became apparent to us that his fly was unzipped. It was particularly apparent because he was sort of standing there with his leg up on the side of the chair, and Valeriani, being a more charitable soul than I, took his pen out and, you know, scribbled something on a piece of paper and folded it up and handed it to him, and Dr. Kissinger didn't even look at it and just sort of stuffed it in his pocket. And eventually went back up front. About a minute or so later, we heard the sound coming from the front of the plane. It sort of sounded like my 57 Chevy on a cold winter morning. You know? I turned to Valeriani. I said, what the hell do you write on the paper? And he said, well, I wrote, you know, dear Mr. Secretary, if you don't zip your fly before we get to Riyadh, Sakaf won't be holding your little finger.
We'll be right back. I wish tonight, you know, this is the only night that I'd be able to say this. I wish the show was now 90 minutes instead of the old hour. I really do, because we don't have enough time. I'm flattered you'd come, Ted. Stevie, thank you for being here. James, thank you very, very much. Have a great tour. Tomorrow night on for Schwarzenegger, Vittles Melmo, comedian John Bowman. We'll see you then. Good night.